A happy family is hard to come by these days. Divorce, domestic abuse, addiction, many issues plague the modern family no matter the part of the world you live in. However, in the Fujishima family's case, despite separation, alcohol and abuse, the sole daughter of the family is a shining example of a straight-A student, beloved by her peers and teachers alike. Meaning when she suddenly vanishes, questions arise as to what could have happened for herself or someone else to make her disappear. Her estranged father begins his search, and one by one the facts start to become abundantly clear that Kanako, the girl he thought he knew, the one that was displayed to the outside world, was an unequivocal lie. As I say with most things I make videos on, if that sounds like a good time to you and you haven't seen World of Kanako yet,
get out of here! Can't you see we don't want you anymore? Why can't you go back where you came from?
Now those lot are scarce. Before looking into Kanako's dark world, I first want to address stuff like this. To understand the Marmite reaction to Kanako, it is important that we give the film context by looking at its creator, Tetsuya Nakashima. Throughout his filmography, Nakashima's main focus has been on the twisting and subversion of Japanese pop culture, from his focus on how motherly affection can warp desire in Confessions to the gender-swap biker punks of Kamikaze Girls. Nakashima follows the path of great modern Japanese directors in observing his culture and pointing out its flaws on screen. Where he differentiates himself is in the execution. Often nihilistic tones are accompanied by wacky visuals or quick cuts to keep a sense of rapid pace. I think the best way to see why the Western critical reception of Kanako was mixed would be to look at his most acclaimed film, Confessions. Whilst both films follow a dark story with relation to family, Confessions is a lot more down-to-earth in visual execution and plot structure. The events that happen in Confessions follow a linear path of escalation, and it's a lot easier to digest when something extreme happens as it is built to it. Kanako's structure goes in the opposite direction. Its tagline, "Say Goodbye to Reason," sums up the objectives Nakashima tries to achieve. Almost dreamlike at parts, the mystery-like build of Kanako, along with more extreme visuals and subject matter, make it a more challenging film to dissect. A family drama which borders on exploitation with plot points of incest, prostitution, and other unsavoury subjects. From reading through other critiques, I think it falls under the same vein as a lot of the other ultra-nihilistic stuff I tend to enjoy more than others, as there is no silver lining. Hate begets hate, and that cycle is at the crux of Kanako's twisted acts. Nakashima's intentions were to transfer the unredeemable characters of Kanako's world to screen in their original vile states. Saying in an interview with Screen Daily about the troubles in getting it made, "It's a really difficult situation to produce a film like this. They just want characters that can make people laugh a bit and make them cry at the ending. All the characters are really good and nice and bland. I want to portray humanity and the bad side of characters, and even make them laughable, since that's another true side of human beings. I think rather than just portraying the good parts of people, showing the bad parts and the honest parts give viewers more plentiful emotions. The intention isn't to create a specific emotion, just an extreme one. And considering people's either hatred or love of the feature, I think he succeeded. In the grand scheme of things, none of the wide critical reception matters. This is my video, and I get to choose the horrible opinions. But, to be perfectly honest, sometimes I don't feel like I should love this as much as I do. I could see myself watching this at another point in my life and thinking it was all done for pure shock value. The bleak nihilism, in contrast to the upbeat tempo of violent cuts and shotgun storytelling as we travel from place to place in Kanako's evil wake, just worked for me on some sort of primal level. I was entranced with the prototypical father searching for a loved one tale flipping on its head as we explore what Kanako and her father's love really is. As stated earlier, Nakashima uses his art to provide pop culture commentary, and it's this counterculture perspective that really draws me to Asian cinema in the first place. Filmmakers like Sion Sono, Takeshi Kitano, Seijin Suzuki, and our principal talking point here, Nakashima, taking not only established genre tropes in films, but also cultural standpoints such as the nuclear family, and subverting them to create not only original stories, but present them in a way which critiques the banal views of the perfect household, a vision of family so very few of us share. 4 timelines converging is a tough ask for any film to pull off, and the way Nakashima tackles this is frequent and violent cuts. The pace is frantic, and switching between timelines occasionally isn't even announced, sometimes involving match cuts which really require your attention to keep up with the pace. Narrative beats fly by, building a picture of what you expect from the feature that is slowly tore down as it progresses. This structure allows the world of Kanako to extend and become this web of suffering that we are invited into along with Kanako's father Akikura. The concept of spells, dreams, and distortions of reality to help us compartmentalise the actions on screen. Alice in Wonderland, whilst being overplayed as a motif, acts as a guiding course to understand Kanako's mental state, and the world that Kanako constructs for herself. It's an excuse for every rancid act that comes with it. Even till the end, Kanako's dream never hurts her. She can't be hurt because it's not real to her. Where this disposition comes from is left up to the viewer. There are many triggers presented, from Ogata's suicide to her broken home, to just an inherent lack of empathy, possibly due to her father's blood running through her. But no matter the origin, the pain it causes remains. Thus, frequently flicking between perspective and time is how we get to at least try to understand our two leads. Straightforward desires such as finding a lost daughter or avenging the death of a loved one become warped, and with that the true purpose of the actions taken become muddled. As often is the case when dealing with evil, maybe we aren't meant to fully understand. The lack of cohesive reasoning beyond desire gives way to a much scarier line of force, that there is no true reason, that the evil we see is a product of something intangible, something even in death we can't hope to reason with. A key concept behind the dynamic of Kanako and her father is love, both twisted in similar ways. We see this from the very first frame, parallels of love and hatred whilst Akikazu waits to punish his wife for cheating. What we don't see immediately is the intertwined relationship of hate and love that serves us as the key theme throughout. Akikazu's love, or what he thinks is love, was the core of the film for me. It's the driving force which makes him go to such lengths to find Kanako. For as fucked up as he is, Kanako is the one thing he has made that worked out. No matter what he tried to do to destroy her, this love, as twisted as it is what makes the discovery of Kanako's deeds so hurtful to Akikazu, as it betrays the perfect image of her in his mind. Don't get me wrong, however, this is purely the father's hurt. We see his actions as well through different timelines, and any connection an audience could feel to a disconnected father is washed away. What does this leave us with then? Well, as in the case of many films centered around detestable people, it's not the personal connection that the emotion of the piece is drawn from, rather a front row seat to emotional destruction. A complete breakdown of a man's psyche and what's left of him after all is said and done. Kanako, on the other hand, is our embodiment of hate. Most of her reactions to her actions feel numb, so you wouldn't be wrong in assessing her as a sociopath, but I don't think that's the full picture. Kanako understands love, perhaps more than anyone else in the feature, hence why she is able to use it to her advantage and hurt her targets as much as possible. But in the case of her father, as rudimentary as it is to say, teenage hate of their fathers is a common occurrence, but, like the overabundance on portraying families as tight nuclear units, it's not one that is recognised as widely as it should be. The natural thing is to love your parents, however, in this extreme portrayal of the modern family, Kanako never had any love to give. Her father's love, as sick as it is met with hate and at times pity. Kanako knows she is above this man, despite what societal norms of age-commanding respect would tell a normal teenager. Through her cold disposition, she is able to manipulate him, and many others, into getting whatever she wants. Despite still taking the abuse that Akikazu dishes out, the power dynamic of hate trumping love is arguably dismantled by Kanako's death. A mother's true love for her child driving her to kill Kanako in retribution for what she did to her daughter. But, in a sick way, Kanako still kind of manages to win in this final moment. Her way of life leads her to inflicting the most pain possible on her father and the woman who killed her. Whilst her motivations are somewhat ambiguous, a constant thread of her actions lead back to a twisted parental relationship at the forefront. Ultimately, as different as our father and daughter's love is on the surface, destruction remains at its core. For them, pain is love, and it's worth whatever cost they, or the people around them, have to pay. When originally writing this, my motivation was to understand the conflicting opinions on the world of Kanako. Divisive films range from being the most interesting to some bullshit that got undeserved attention, and I believe Kanako lands in the former. Obviously, I fall on the positive side of the spectrum, but don't let that deter you from calling it a piece of trash if you feel like it. Despite going on about it, this is a simple film at heart. Not a lot of subtlety to be found, but I guess that's why I wanted to examine it, to see where the conflict of opinions could stem from. A lot of the beauty in film is that it lies in the eye of the beholder. For me, I see Kanako, the straight-A student who can do no wrong. For others, they see the monster that causes chaos for nothing. Perception is the key, and in that respect you can only trust your own, no matter where it eventually leads you.